oral cavity.
तुम घर से बनाओ, देखो बन रही है। अरे उधर से बना। तुम बनाते हो सही से बन रही है।
So guys, today we start to learn with you from oral cavity. So the oral cavity consists from the vestibule and proper oral cavity. The vestibule of oral cavity has anterior and posterior wall. Anterior wall of vestibule formed by the lips, superior and inferior, and cheeks. Posterior wall formed by the teeth and gums. Vestibule connect with proper oral cavity through the fissure-shaped opening, which locate back of the molar, retromolar fossa. Through that fossa, we had connection between vestibulum and proper oral cavity. The lips of vestibulum attached to the gums through the frenum, maxillary frenum or superior labial frenum, and inferior labial frenum or mandibular frenum. The mucus of the lips will continue to the mucus of the gums, and mucus of the gums called gingiva. It's tightly fused with periosteum of alveolar processes of maxilla and mandibule. That's why it has light pink color. The border between the mucus of lips and gums called marginal line or mucogingival junction. In the cheek, we had the papilla, where locate the opening of parotid duct, is the biggest salivary gland. That papilla located on the level of second maxillary molar. The vestibulum anteriorly formed by the lips, superior and inferior one, which connect to each other through the commissure. The proper oral cavity is fissure-shaped cavity. Normally, the dorsum of the tongue attached to the hard and soft palate. The anterior border of proper oral cavity is the teeth. Superior border is hard and soft palate. Inferior border its muscle, anterior belly of digastric muscle, mylohyoid muscle, and geniohyoid muscle. Posterior border between the oral cavity and oropharynx is fauces. Fauces bordered by the soft palate superiorly, root of the tongue inferiorly, and laterally there are two folds, or two arches, palatoglossal and palatopharyngeal arches. Between them we had tonsillar fossa, where located palatine tonsil. Let's talk about each wall of the oral cavity. First of all, the superior wall of oral cavity. Superior wall of oral cavity is palate, hard palate and soft palate. The hard palate formed by the palatine process of maxill and horizontal plate of palatine bone. That bones covered by periosteum. Between periosteum and the mucus, which covers the hard palate, locate the glands of the palatine. The medially on the palate, hard palate, we can see the suture, palatine suture. In anterior part of hard palate, locate the transverse palatine folds and incisive papilla. The soft palate, which is visible in oral cavity, forms the palate volume. That is the palate volume. The muscle of soft palate attached to the hard palate through aponeurosis. Muscle of soft palate includes the levator veli palate, which originate from the base of the skull, from the auditory tube, runs to the palate aponeurosis and levates the soft palate. That levation lets the soft palate border or separate the nasal cavity from the oral cavity. Next muscle, which also originates from the auditory tube, it's a tensor soft palate, tensor veli palate. That muscle will cross the humulus of pterygoid processes and it runs attached to the soft palate. It consists from the vertical part and horizontal part. The function of that muscle, according to name of that muscle, it's tension of soft palate. The third muscle is muscle called uvula. The uvula muscle, when it's contract, it's shorter the uvula. Let it tightly attach to the posterior pharyngeal wall and separates the nasal and oral cavity. The uvula muscle located in the uvula. Another two muscles will originate from the palate aponeurosis is palatopharyngeal muscle. That muscle elevates the pharynx and depress the soft palate. And next muscle, it's palatoglossal muscle. It also originates from aponeurosis of soft palate and it runs to the tongue, continue to the muscles, proper muscles of the tongue. Last two muscles, palatoglossal and palatopharyngeal muscle, locate in the fold of the mucus, which called the arches, palatoglossal arch and palatopharyngeal arch. Between that two arches, locate tonsilary fossa, where locate the palatine tonsil. That is the paired organs of lymphoid system. The floor of oral cavity formed by the muscles which locate above the hyoid bone is anterior belly of digastric muscle, the mylohyoid muscle, and above the mylohyoid muscle locates the geniohyoid muscle. The organ of the oral cavity is the tongue. It lays on the floor of oral cavity. Stop to record, yeah?